Hello, welcome to Medicines. Today we are going to start our first topic in general anatomy, which is the types of epiphysis. We are going to discuss the four types of epiphysis, which are the most important type of epiphysis. Let's start. Types of epiphysis. Firstly, let us understand what is an epiphysis. Let us consider a long bone. Let us imagine it is a dumbbell shaped bone. This is the main part of the dumbbell and these are the side parts. Okay, this is known as the epiphysis, and this part here is known as the shaft. It is also known as the diaphysis, but today we are going to discuss about the epiphysis. Firstly, it is the ends of the main bone. These are known as the epiphysis. The middle is known as the shaft. Okay, the first type of epiphysis which we are going to discuss is the pressure epiphysis. Generally, the pressure epiphysis is something which will be the weight lifter. Whatever weight the bone produce will be weight on the pressure epiphysis. Okay. One second, I'll show you the image. This is here. This part is known as the pressure epiphysis. The body weight is generally weight on the pressure epiphysis. It takes the entire weight of the body. That is why it is named as the pressure epiphysis. Okay, it is generally located at the ends of the bone. For the common examples are shoulder, hip, and knee. It handles pressure and weight from the movement. Whenever our body does a movement, it handles the pressure and the weight exhibited by the body. Examples are the head of the femur, hip joint, and the lower end of tibia or the ankle. These are the main examples in the pressure epiphysis. Okay, we should understand this pressure epiphysis so that in a story format, so that it should be very clear. A strong person standing at the end of the bone holding a heavy weight. Okay, a strong person holding at the end of the bone a heavy weight. So generally, since he's holding some weight, he's applying pressure to that specific point. So we call it as the pressure epiphysis. Okay, let's go to the second one. It is known as the traction epiphysis. We understand this as the rope puller. Nobody generally understands when we call it as rope puller, but I'll show you. This part is known as the traction epiphysis. Why do we call it traction epiphysis? See, this is the part of the bone, and this is a part of the bone, and this is also a part of the bone. A muscle is attached to this part respectively. It pulls the muscle. The muscle pulls the bone at a specific angle, so that it is known as the traction epiphysis. Whenever if somebody asks what is traction epiphysis, we must remember the muscle pull. There is muscle attached to that specific part, and it pulls at a specific angle or the direction. Where is it? On spots where muscle pull on the bone. On certain spots where muscles pull on the bone. What does it do? It responds to pulling force from the muscles. Whenever a certain pulling force appears on the muscle, it responds to that. It is the purpose of the traction epiphysis. Example: the greater trochanter of the femur, tubercles of the humerus. These are the main examples of traction epiphysis. This is an image. Okay, again the second story. A person pulling a rope that is tied to the side of the bone. Okay, I'll read it once again. A person. Again, this is a rope. For example, a person pulling a rope. He is pulling a rope towards himself that is tied to the side of the bone. Let us imagine that rope, his pulling that is a muscle, so that it is pulling towards itself. This is known as traction epiphysis, which is being tugged by the muscles. This is the third one, which is known as the atavistic epiphysis. This is one of the ancient one, which is later has evolved into a separate or larger bone. Okay, let's see what it is. It is a part that was once a separate bone in evolution, but now it is a part of a bigger bone. Like, okay, I'll show you. Once it was an in a separate bone. Due to evolution, it has evolved into a bigger bone. It has evolved. This is a more ancient one, which we don't often discuss. What does it do? It shows how we have changed through evolution. Generally, it is an example of the human evolution from one particular separate bone to a bigger bone. The common example is generally the coracoid process of the scapula. This is known as the atavistic epiphysis. Again, the story. An old wise man who once had his own castle. An old wise man who once had his own castle but now lives inside the big bone, which means who once had his own castle. This is the separate bone, which has evolved into a big bone. Okay, now lives in the big bone kingdom. This is known as the atavistic epiphysis. The fourth one, which is the last one, is the aberrant epiphysis, the odd one out. We call it as the odd one out because it has its own individual characteristics compared to the other three epiphyses, where it is rare or unusual places, not always present. It might be present or may not be present. It is generally considered as rare. Okay, what does it do? Sometimes nothing important just shows up. It likes we can also call it as vestigial because it does nothing. It's not that important compared to the other three epiphyses. It is just present or may not be present. Example: the head of the first metacarpal. Okay, this is also it is present in the head of the first metacarpal. It's like something vestigial, which is not that important. Okay, the story for this is a mysterious guest who appears sometimes but isn't always invited. This is the aberrant epiphysis. It is a mysterious guest. Its presence might be important, may not be important. It is always not invited. Okay. So these are the four main stories. Firstly, a strong guy lifting weights. Strong guy lifting weights. If you remember this, we could easily understand what that story is amplifying, which epiphysis it is focusing on. Strong guy lifting weights. Pressure epiphysis. Every time, whenever we remember about the pressure epiphysis, it is strong guy lifting weights. Something very important. The next one, someone pulling a rope. Okay, someone pulling a rope. Traction epiphysis. We should hear traction epiphysis means muscle pull. We should remember this. Okay, muscle pull. And the third one, a wise old man with a scroll. If atavistic, it is separate bone evolved into a longer bone due to it is a significance of evolution. Okay, this one, a sneaky shadow figure, which means the uninvited guest. Uninvited guest. Okay, that's it for the today. We have discussed the four main types of epiphysis. These are the mostly the main four types. We would be remembering each of the general anatomy topics in a story wise so that it would be easy to remember and everybody would be able to understand, because most of them would find it difficult to understand all the topics in the general anatomy because they are very complex and very diverse. So I will try my level best for everybody to understand each of them in detail. If you're interested in these kinds of videos, do follow for more.